The political season is with us, and the heat of the campaign is rising. October 1, the filing of certificates of candidacies for national and elective posts. How different is the forthcoming elections in 2013? Do we really have a genuine opposition at this time when the president is very popular and his trust ratings are very high? Joining us tonight to give us his analysis of how the politicians and their parties are shaping up for the elections is Professor Prospero Popoy de Vera, a political strategist and Vice President for Public Affairs at the University of the Philippines. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, how different is this midterm elections compared to 2007? President Aquino's trust ratings is very high. His performance also rated very well. Because of this, it appears that there's no opposition. It has simply melted, and almost all, except a few candidates for the Senate, wants to be identified with the president. Is this how political experts like you see it?
Well, there are three big differences in this midterm election, which is different from previous midterm elections. So first, as you said, there's no clear opposition. Both the UNA and the LP-NP coalition profess their support for the president. And this means, among other things, that it is more difficult for the candidate to package himself and to brand himself to be known to the people. So there will be no equivalent of Trillanes or Alan Cayetano or Coco Pimentel in 2007 that branded themselves as the antithesis of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's administration. So it's a little more difficult, especially for the unknowns, to brand themselves. So those who are incumbents and the electionists and those who are returning senators enjoy a distinct advantage of name recall and being branded. The second big difference is that this election will be more media-driven than before. So it will be more costly for senatorial elections, for senatorial candidates, because a bigger percentage of your budget will have to go to media ads. Because now the survey shows that as much as 92 to 94% of the voters get their information about candidates from television. So you've got to invest in political ads. The third one is that social media will now be more strategically used compared to previous elections, because a lot of Filipinos are on Facebook, a lot of access to computers, and so it will be a challenge for candidates on how to use social media to support their candidacy.
Yes, sir. Quite surely each of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. Now, sir, let's look at the lineup shaping up for both parties. The administration ticket and the UNA, man for man, the odds are almost even. If in 2007, sir, running with the administration was a kiss of death, this time running under the ticket of President Aquino gives a candidate greater prospects of winning. What will decide the outcome for a candidate for the Senate?
Well, first we'll have to find out who eventually ends up filing their candidacy. Because as of now, both the UNA coalition and the LP coalition have not firmed up their 12 candidates, and we'll only know who the final 12 are in October 5. So we will know by that time, number one, who eventually ends up as common candidates to both and who are candidates exclusively of one coalition. And then the baseline in terms of support, the first realistic baseline as far as surveys is concerned, will be the first survey done after the final filing of candidacy, because now you limit the choices only to about 24 candidates. Unlike now, the surveys have as many as 50 names. So there are potential candidates with strong support who may not end up running. And so you'll have to find out for these candidates where will their supporters shift their votes. So we will know by that time what is the relative strength of both parties. I think at this point it is fairly even. At this point, given the fact that the top two strongest candidates as far as service is concerned may end up common candidates of both the LP and the UNA.
Yes, Professor. So as you said, there's no doubt incumbents are the favorites to make it. What about returning senators, especially the old ones like Senator Magsaysay and Ernesto Maceda?
Well, June Magsaysay is more strategically and better positioned than Ernie Baceda because June Magsaysay's awareness level is much lower, but his level of support is much higher than Manong Ernie. I think June Magsaysay's level of awareness is only in the 70s, and yet his level of support is about 18%, if I'm not mistaken. Ernie Macedo, on the other hand, 83% awareness level. That means 83 out of every 100 Filipinos surveyed already know him, but the level of support is only 15%. By previous elections, you've got to get at the minimum about 24% level of support to realistically compete for number 12.
So, Professor, do you think, how tight is the race? Is it a 12-0, is a 12-0 possible, or could it be a 6-6?
I think it's going to be 7-5 either way. Either 7-5 for one or 7-5 for the other, because there are common candidates that are common to both, which you don't know where you will count them, whether they will be to one coalition or the other. And remember, the election is 7 months away. So many things can happen. The battle on who will produce the best political ads, we still have to see. The ground forces in terms of political alignments is not very clear. So even those who with survey records as low as about 15 to 18 are realistically still in the race.
All right, on that note, sir, thank you so much for joining us tonight on NewsLife. That was Professor Prospero Popoy de Vera, political strategist and Vice President for Public Affairs at the University of the Philippines.